Hey guys, it's Jonathan. The number one question I've received about the Vix Trading System is how do we use it to find trades? So let's go through it. So let's go through it. Step one.
The first thing I'm going to do with the Vix Trading System to find trades is I want to look at data. And what that means is I'm going to use a top-down approach. So when you use a top-down approach to investing, you think of the economy. Then you think of industries. Then you think of specific business. So you're thinking top-down. You want to see the whole picture and drill down to smaller and smaller. So with the Vix Trading System, we want to look at Vix term structure. And if we say that another way, it's the Vix curve. So when you look at the Vix, just VIX, that's a 30-day measure of volatility. But we also can look at the 9-day VIX, the 30-day. We can look at the 3-month, which is going to be the 90-day. We can look at the 6-month. The 6-month, 180 days. And then 360 days is the full year. So we don't want to only look at the VIX, which is 30 days. Instead, we want to look at the entire VIX term structure to see where there's strength and where there's weakness.
Step two.
In this next step, step two, again, we're looking at the VIX curve, VIX term structure. I want to drill in further. So I cleaned up the chart. Instead of looking at 5 or 6 different products, now we're just looking at 3. And I'm going to walk you through these 3. The red line, it's going to be 9 days to 30 days. It's the difference between those two. It's the difference in value between the 9-day VIX and the 30-day VIX. So think about that as short term. The white line, that's going to be 30 days because it's just the VIX all the way out to 90 days. Again, it's the difference between the two. So you can see the front end of the VIX curve is going to be the red line. The middle is the white line. And then the furthest away is going to be that gray line. And that's what it looks like here. So in a normal environment, and here was COVID when the VIX really spiked, but in a normal environment, you're going to see the red line underneath the further out. And the reason that happens is because in a normal environment, we know what's going to happen in the next 9 days. We have a pretty good idea of what's in front of us. But when the pandemic was announced or it came or when it hit the news and the stock market started getting affected, the short-term VIXs really spiked because that's where all the uncertainty was. The belief was, hey, over time, we're probably going to be okay, but short-term, there was a massive spike. So let's drill into this further as we find trade ideas using the Vix Trading System.
Funny thing, I was on the floor of the Chicago Mercantile Exchange from 97 to 03. And as floor traders, you communicate by using your hands. So this was 1, this was 2, this was 3. So if I wanted to say 13, it'd be 1, 3. But it would never be this. You were not allowed to use this because I guess this is not clear as this. So if I'm going to be 31 bid to buy 1, I would hit here to buy 10. Everything using your hands. But when I said 3, I've always gotten the habit of doing step 3 like this because of the floor.
Now we're really drilling down, and this is where it gets really interesting. Because if I look at the entire VIX curve, and if I draw it like this, and we call this 9 days, and we call this 365. Well, now what I'm doing with this analysis is I'm breaking it up. I'm saying the red line is going to be this, and this is the VIX, right? 30-day. Represented here and represented here. So you have the red line, and then the blue line is here. So this red line in a normal environment should comfortably trade under that blue line. But we're not in a normal environment. And we need to use the Vix trading system to get a really good feel for when that VIX spikes. But we don't want to wait for that 30-day VIX to spike. We want to wait for that 9-day VIX to spike. So the number 4 step is find the trade. Be patient. Wait for opportunity. So I'm going to show you this exact chart along with the S&P futures so you can see how the market behaved when we broke apart like the rubber band does and comes back together. When it breaks apart and when it comes back together.
And then finally, step 4. Any questions? Just leave a comment below.
So same chart down below, and we're just looking at S&P futures. And I tried to line them up as best as I could with the same time. So if there's 2020, there's 2020. Here's what I want you to see. Notice here, that was a very long sustained time where that 9-day was just chilling under that longer term, where the difference between 9-day to 30-day was so much weaker than the further out because everybody was getting comfortable. The VIX even traded 9 back then. But you can notice where this actually happened in the beginning of February. So this happened before the big break in the market. And what started to happen, and why, if you watch that first video, Pablo Lucina and myself to our coaching clients were screaming from the rooftops, risks are elevated, considering buying SPY puts, considering selling S&P futures, considering selling NASDAQ futures. The reason we were doing that is because everything was calm. Everything was rosy until we started to see this behavior. And then we really started to get some steam once we started to see that behavior. The 9-day led the way. The short-term VIX was the real problem. So what can we do going forward? Well, we know in a normal time period that red line should be under the blue line, right? Well, look now. Be careful. In order to get this rally to be sustainable, in order to get a bounce going, we need that 9-day or that short term, the 9-day relative to the 30-day, under that longer term. And the further it gets apart from one another, or the more we notice that short term well above the longer term, risks are elevated. You should look to hedge your account. You might want to buy SPYs. You might want to cover some longs. So that's how we use it. Top-down approach. Use all the data you can and wait. Wait until things break apart. Wait for the setups. This was video 2. Go back and watch video 1. Vix Trading System. It's built to protect your account. My name is Jonathan Rose. I'm the owner of Masters in Trading.